Speaker. Okay, please be seated. The Honorable Senator Kathuri Murungi, Deputy Speaker of the Senate and Chairperson of the Senate Liaison Committee, Senator Aaron Cheriot, Senate Majority Leader, Senator Justice Stuart Mazayo, Senate Minority Leader, chairs and members of the Senate committees, the clerk of the Senate, who is represented by his officers today, the representative of the Council of Governors, my friend Kithinji Kirago, I've seen you there. Let me also acknowledge the chairperson of the County Assembly's Forum, the Office of the Auditor General, the Controller of Budget, Madam Margaret Nyakango, all participants present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Hamjambo. I'll make a few formal remarks, short, and then maybe towards the end, nitaongeza yangu kidogo. But I do agree with the Speaker of the Deputy Speaker of the Senate that at the plenary, maybe that would be a good moment to go into camera, because maybe I may be one of the culprits of the potential discussion that will arise. And as you know, when you are here, somebody might argue that you didn't speak on the floor of the House. So he might rush to court and say something. But I suppose the immunity, the privileges still follow you up to here. Okay, so let me make my remarks. Oh, by the way, let me also explain that Madam Rono would have been here, but she's represented by Mr. Nick Biketi, the Secretary for Parliamentary Affairs in her department. She is entangled in another meeting on matters to do with the budget, so she was not able to come. But she has been a very ardent champion in terms of fostering good relations between Parliament and the Executive. So I am delighted to join you today for this Senate Liaison Committee retreat, and that focuses on the important theme of building synergies and exploring interlinkages for effective and efficient operations of Senate committees. Let me appreciate the leadership and members of the Senate, led by the Deputy Speaker, Kathuri Murungi, who is also the chair of the Senate Liaison Committee, for convening this important retreat. I also acknowledge Uasin Gishu County Senator Jackson Mandago, who is hosting us in this beautiful breadbasket of the county that is also the home of our international athletes champions. You call them Mabingwa, is it Bingwa? Not Mashujaa. But I suppose a Bingwa eventually mutates into a Shujaa. We are gathered here to discuss how the Executive and Legislature can enhance their relations, creating an enabling environment for the Senate and its committees to deliver on the promise of enhancing service delivery to Kenyans at all levels. It is a worthy and timely occasion to assess the strides we have made and explore ways of cementing the interlinkages between these two arms of government. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a new facet of parliamentary business, and the interrelationship between the legislature and the executive is central to the delivery of our government's bottom-up transformation agenda. This does not in any way imply that the two branches of government have not been working together and collaborating on matters of national interest. What is new, though, is the constitutional architecture under which the two arms of government exist, and in particular, the redefined independence of the two arms, the questions and statements framework, and the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and the House standing orders. For the first time in the history of Kenya, we now have a State Department for Parliamentary Affairs under my office that is mandated to coordinate the implementation of the national government's legislative agenda across all ministries and state departments in consultation with and for transmission to the party coalition leadership in Parliament. Our greatest appreciation to His Excellency the President, William Ruto, for establishing this unique structure to promote the institutional linkages between the executive and both houses of Parliament. This State Department is not just unique here in Kenya, but among the first of its kind in Africa. Furthermore, the President presented us with an excellent takeoff through the Presidential Memorandum to Parliament dated 9th December 2022. The purpose of the memorandum, as you will recall, was to initiate a collaborative exploration of existing opportunities to enrich Kenya's democratic experience by enhancing institutional capacities, strengthening complementary and interrelationships, and refining of mandates in order to realize the full appreciation of Kenyans as required in the Constitution. In the memorandum, His Excellency the President urged Parliament to consider implementing mechanisms within the standing orders to facilitate the participation of cabinet secretaries in parliamentary proceedings, particularly by responding to questions raised by senators. This embodied the government's better commitment to promote accountability and openness in the management of public affairs. Let me quote the President. The executive has a vested interest in engaging productively with Parliament because the legislature is the custodian of critical instruments that are indispensable for the functioning of government. There is a profound value in prosecuting the executive's legislature agenda and elaborating government policy from the floor of the House as opposed to segmented committee engagements. End of quote. The President observed that the executive participation in parliamentary business improves transparency of public proceedings, thus helping to close the information gap and enhance trust between citizens and government. Subsequently to this memorandum, amendments were introduced to the standing orders of both houses of Parliament. The amended standing orders of the Senate allow cabinet secretaries to appear before the plenary of the House to respond to questions raised by members. The standing orders outline the framework for the parliamentary questions and statements, encompassing response, procedures, timelines, notifications, and consequences for non-appearance. The amendments were followed through by various proactive steps by the Senate aimed at ensuring adequate notice by the executive of upcoming questions. As part of these proactive steps, the clerk of the Senate has been dispatching notices regarding the scheduling of parliamentary questions to respective cabinet secretaries. In addition, Parliament has leveraged on technology through the publication on its website of tentative lists of cabinet secretaries set to address plenary on various questions raised by members. This process has ensured effective communication with the relevant parliamentary liaison officers, a space where the executive has reduced time and space that had hitherto hampered turnaround times in the execution of government business. The importance of parliamentary questioning is paramount in advancing good governance, transparent leadership, and the retention of public trust. This oversight function of Parliament is a cornerstone of democracy, providing a means to hold the executive accountable for its actions and ensuring alignment with legislated business and aspirations of the people of Kenya. A robust oversight of the executive by Parliament is a testament to good governance. Beyond its legislative role, oversight empowers Parliament to maintain a balance of power and uphold its role as the guardian of the people's interests. I therefore find the rationale that informs the President's call for our complementary interrelationships applicable, not only for plenary business, but also to committee business. Through the liaison of the Executive and Parliament, my office has, amongst other things, rejuvenated the Parliamentary Liaison Service in all the ministries and MDAs, that is ministries, departments, and agencies, to ensure efficient and effective day-to-day dispatch of business mutual to both arms of government. I am pleased to report that through this revitalization and in furtherance to our quest to enrich the interlinkages between these critical arms of government, my office has developed a liaison framework that seeks to anchor and augment the contemporary liaison relationship between the two arms of government. This framework codifies the basic elements of liaison between the officers from both arms of government for effective and efficient operations in the House. The liaison framework has been crafted to forge an efficient coordination mechanism that is paramount in fostering effective relationship between the two arms of government. Once it's fully operationalized, the framework is designed to ensure a seamless relationship in the discharge of government business in Parliament. In building synergies and exploring interlinkages between Senate and committees and the Executive, the Liaison Committee framework provides an effective mechanism to ensure appearances of cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, and other senior ranks of the Executive. Furthermore, the framework shall provide a clear guideline on timely responses from the Executive with respect to questions or inquiries from standing committees of the Senate. The framework also provides a transparent and accountable follow-up mechanism on the implementation of parliamentary resolutions and national executive undertakings to Parliament. This is informed by the fact that the implementation of parliamentary resolutions and our undertakings as the Executive embody the essence of transparent and open engagements between the two arms of government. It is important to note that MDAs have designated various serving officers as parliamentary liaison officers who have demonstrated selfless and steadfast commitment to timely responsiveness of the MDAs to parliamentary business. In addition to playing a facilitative role in the day-to-day business between Parliament and the Executive, these liaison officers have also demonstrated their crucial role in the day-to-day business within the Executive. I enjoyed the services of these officers when I recently appeared before the Senate Standing Committee on Delegated Legislation, where we had rich engagement regarding the staged expiry of statutory instruments pursuant to Section 21 of the Statutory Instruments Act. Together with the relevant technical officers in the MDAs, the liaison officers have followed up that engagement, been critical in coordinating the identification, audit, and evaluation of statutory instruments critical to their dockets that require urgent intervention. I am aware also that this matter is actively before our courts and judgment is due on 26th of June. We shall await the court's decision and direction to chart the way forward. Additionally, in embracing and recognizing the critical role of technology in improving the turnaround in dispatch of government business, the State Department of Parliamentary Affairs is spearheading the establishment of a legislative agenda tracking information system, in short, LATIS. This technology-driven platform will onboard all MDAs involved in the policy and law formulation processes and enable an end-to-end tracking and real-time reporting of ongoing policy, legislative formulation and development work. We intend to structure this platform under the Parliamentary Liaison module as a dashboard for assessing the government's responsiveness to parliamentary matters. This will cover the whole spectrum of questions, statements, resolutions, and undertakings to Parliament in the spirit of the whole of government approach. Parliament will be a critical player and partner in aiding the success of these aspects of the system. I am pleased to report that my office, through the State Department of Parliamentary Affairs, has also developed a government legislative agenda schedule that contains a total of 772 initiatives, comprising of 203 policy initiatives, 244 legislative initiatives, 325 statutory instruments. This is the government's legislative agenda for the next 5 years. Now, of course, we are counting down. That is geared to supporting better. It is part of our constitutional democracy for economic and social transformation. We shall be releasing this as a public document in a few days' time. We seek your support to expedite the enactment of these legislative initiatives that shall be submitted to Parliament. Let me conclude by reflecting on what the Chinese see as three sources of power. The first is the sword, the second is gold, and the third is a mirror. Of the three, the mirror is perhaps the most powerful. Today, we are before the mirror of self-reflection on where we are and where we want to go. On my mirror, I see a country focused on ideological debate on how to carefully weave the socio-economic threads that will guarantee us fabrics and garments tailored to fit our various sizes. It is our duty as representatives of both wings of government to provide an environment where the making of these garments is in no doubt a reflection of the true vision of our founding fathers to elevate our people from the enemies of poverty, ignorance, and disease. With great anticipation, therefore, I look forward to an exceptionally productive and insightful engagement ahead. The outcome of your deliberations will certainly contribute to the prosperity of our nation and our people. Thank you, and God bless you. Mr. Speaker, if you don't mind, let me just flag out one or two issues that I thought I would like to share with you as we reflect on this. Part of it has been raised by the previous speakers here on matters around debt within the counties and the impact on supplies and so forth. I want to flag an issue which will be very important because the Senate has a critical role on matters around devolution, is how we can help and ensure that the county governments will give special focus to disaster recovery. Because the rains that came through have caused massive damage in different parts of the country. And therefore, what was primarily forecast as through the budgetary process of the various county governments is likely to be seriously disrupted. So I think it is important that I flag that area so that the Senate can play a critical role in conjunction with the county governments so that we can realign some of the resources effectively to mitigate on the damage that has been caused. You are all aware, if you are to talk about your regions, everybody has a story to tell, whether it is roads, whether it is schools, whether it is the rail system, whether it is water supplies. A lot of damage has been caused across the board. So I think that is an area that may require some special attention. The other thing I may want to bring forward, again for your consideration, as a liaison committee and how it falls back to your respective committees, is something that the control of budget has last few days. I think there was something around recall of expenditure, a figure of about 7 billion. I think she'll elaborate later in the conversation, where sometimes this money is recalled and thereafter there's no clear indication how it was utilized, and therefore there's a lot of pilferage. So when you imagine we are talking of how the mediation committee was able to mitigate or mediate and raise an additional 15 billion for the county governments, and then we get the reports from the control of budget that about 17 billion seems to go somewhere, it's recalled, and then it vanishes. This becomes a critical issue that, again, I put before you to have a conversation, a deeper conversation on this matter. Then there's something that we discovered in the ministries. One of the things that ministries are supposed to do, or principal secretaries, was to set up corruption prevention committees in their various departments. Unfortunately, we discovered that some departments either had forgotten or had deliberately ignored this, or were slow in setting up corruption prevention committees. Now, I don't know what the actual status may be, but if we are going to deal with this vice on corruption, and the representatives of the governors are here, maybe one needs to figure out to what extent have those corruption prevention committees been set up in our counties, and to what extent are they functioning? Then the question that arises, if you have corruption prevention committees in the county assemblies, where do their reports go? And do we have a mechanism, for instance, of the Senate, through its oversight, of receiving reports of the corruption prevention committees from the county governments for deeper analysis? If you do, well and good. If you don't, maybe there is some window to seriously just think through that perhaps within the framework of legislation, a mechanism can then be put through so that corruption prevention committees from all counties, whether Vihiga, Bungoma, Meru, Samburu, wherever, that there's a format of these reports reaching the Senate so that they can be deliberated and one can try and focus and see whether really there's a serious attempt to fight against corruption in some of those areas. Now, the other one is an appeal from me while I wear the docket of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. One of the things that I would like the Liaison Committee and by extension the Senate as well, I am intending to drop a letter to the speakers of both houses, because I would like to, in the course of this year, to be able to present to Parliament a sessional paper on Kenya's foreign policy. Because to the best of my recollection, I think we've had sessional papers on many other items, whether agriculture, whether health. There was even the sessional paper on devolution, which provided the framework for the law that set up the legislative agenda for devolution. But over the years, the issue of foreign affairs and the issue of diplomacy has been treated as if it is sometimes just an elitist club around the executive, and we have not quite domesticated our foreign policy to the extent that sometimes Kenyans are wondering, when you talk about these things, what are you really talking about? So I want to entice you as Senate that when I drop this note, I would be very happy also not just to wait for the debate itself, and we shall invite you at other fora as well, but start thinking on how within our foreign policy we can also entrench parliamentary diplomacy. How can we strengthen it? How can we make it better? Because this business is a collective business. And sometimes through parliamentary diplomacy, you can also unlock very serious issues that may be affecting nations. And I think your input in helping us make some better arrangements for the future and for posterity will be very useful. So I want to leave you with that particular assignment on my part, and then I shall wait. There's that famous quote, I'm not very good at the Bible, but the one that says, I have fought my what? I have fought my good fight. I've run the race. I've kept the faith. So now when you go to the plenary session, I've kept the faith, you people. So I'll wait to hear what the judgment shall be. But all in all, I really want to thank you for inviting us, and I want to reassure you once again that through my office, we as the executive are committed to working with the legislature, to working with the Senate, so that we can deliver better for the people of Kenya. Asanteni sana, and God bless you all.